table. Dignitas continues the high frequency of Zac bans that we've been seeing with the changes to that champion.
100% so far as Zac. Elise is very close right behind him as far as junglers are concerned. But FlyQuest with a little bit more mid-focus here with the Jace ban aimed at Keane. Keane is a guy with a little bit of variation there in his champion select that you're not always used to. Whoa, the Kennen actually very unexpected ban here from FlyQuest. As High banning it away from himself, doesn't want to do that anymore.
After the result from yesterday, FlyQuest blind picking that Kennen, sometimes those sorts of decisions have consequences, and we saw those demonstrated.
Yeah, it is a little bit funny, but it's obviously pointing to a very high value that this team puts on Kennen. They were willing to blind pick it, and they also don't want their opponents to get their hands on it, even in this game, and even with Keane. Now, first pick here for balls on a split pusher is something that's a bit risky, because last split, when FlyQuest went with split pushing strategies, they did have a rough time. It was only really the Rumble carry champion in the top lane that balls had some success on, and that's not really a split pusher. That's a team fighting carry champion from the top side. So very curious to see if FlyQuest can execute on this split pushing style, where Kennen is almost always auto attack based now from the top lane and just keep him split pushing.
Meanwhile, across the field, the first lock-in for Dignitas will be Ashe. This champion remains pretty much evergreen in the last couple of states of the game, the last couple of metas. The power of the Enchanted Crystal Arrow to start fights off, just the reliability of having the extra range, the poke power with the volley, it just works.
And the value of Ashe does rise versus a team where you're seeing split pushing shown very early, and you know what their strategy is going to be. So if you have that long range possible way of picking people off, you can force fights on the lower number groups of the enemy team that are theoretically going to be spread out across the map.
Zyra going along with that Ashe, not a slouch of a lane for Dignitas there in that bottom part of the map. Those two can be very impressive, especially if the opposing side doesn't want to draft a terribly strong lane itself. They will pick up Lulu for the support role, a champion that we saw incredibly highly contested for the past couple of patches, but now falling off a little bit, but still very effective in the right hands.
Yeah, and it's actually interesting because the part where she's falling off is the nerfs to health and shielding, so it's she's a little bit more vulnerable to getting killed. And you mentioned the power of an Ashe Zyra lane. That is a very high DPS lane with a lot of crowd control, that can threaten kills onto even a Lulu lane there. So FlyQuest gonna have to be a little bit careful. Lemonnation is used to playing around Zyra, so we'll see how he fares. But the blind pick Orianna here from High, no hesitation from Team Dignitas as they take the Syndra right into that. There is a lot of kill pressure. High, definitely one of his most played champions is Orianna though, and he's still confident. It does require a lot of dodging though in the matchup.
Oh yeah, a little bit surprising to see both mid laners picked up in the first half of the draft as well. Normally that's not one of the trends you see, but looked like FlyQuest was plenty eager to make sure they were able to stack shields with both Orianna and Lulu. And like you said, Dignitas was more than happy to respond with Syndra, seeing that Ori locked in.
Meanwhile, if you take the whole comp into consideration, Team Dignitas are deciding, we don't want to let that Rengar with Orianna and Lulu combo through, because the shields can be used very effectively on that jungler as well. And Moon had a very, very strong last split on Rengar, and still fairly viable as far as the jungle is concerned. So interesting little target ban there from Team Dignitas.
Rivington, the response from FlyQuest, keeping Ssumday off of one of those top lane carry, bruiser, fighter style of champions. Not so much of a hyper carry like you would expect from Fiora, but somebody who can definitely carry the game from that power and that presence, snowballing from his early game.
And fans who don't know their history of Ssumday, this guy has a history with Rivington. He is a world-renowned Rivington. One of the biggest there in Korea.
One of the OGs.
Absolutely, yeah, exactly. OG Rivington player. So definitely another target ban there, and some respect being played to the history. Jarvan as well going to follow in the same vein, but there we go. Some shielding of their own for Team Dignitas as they take away the Ivern.
Yeah, I feel like that's definitely a takeaway, because you don't want to allow them to stack 3 different shield spammers, because that makes it almost impossible to kill any sort of a value target on FlyQuest. So they'll pick that up for themselves, deny it away from the shield stacking of FlyQuest, who are now thinking about picking up Varus there for WildTurtle. And the discussion about WildTurtle was an interesting one because a lot of people were looking forward, myself included, to seeing him play on this team. FlyQuest, so aggressive, so big on playmaking. Turtle, who when he receives criticisms, it's usually for him being over-aggressive, but they're saying, hey, if you're in a team that they all want to go in and you want to go in, you're on the right page.
And Varus, definitely one of the highest percentage champions into Ashe, as we've seen. Here comes the front line, though. They're going to lock in the Olaf now for Moon. A little bit more telegraphed engage, but he's got the shields to back him up as well. And we talked about the shields don't always have to be used on Turtle. You know, they can be used effectively on these frontline junglers, Rengar, Olaf, as long as they do have a little bit of extra support.
And it looks like we're going to get to see a top lane Lucian, Kobe.
Oh, baby. We had Huni top lane Lucian already demonstrated in LCK last night. And now this is going to be a top lane Lucian with an Ivern on his team. So he'll be handed off very early red buffs to that side if Chaser's going to be able to get 2 pieces of candy. I'm very curious to see how Ssumday, now with a huge carry snowball champion in his hands, is going to be able to do, because his rumble yesterday was definitely good and his team play was good. Now let's see if his dueling is good.
Yeah, Ssumday versus Balls, the Lucian versus the Kennen, the battle of the ranged top laners should be a lot of fun to watch between these two. And you mentioned the shield power, synergizing with the Olaf, making it so you can throw those on him as he goes into the fight for FlyQuest. They can also both haste him up. You've got Lulu who can make him fast, you've got Orianna who can make him fast, really makes his job of getting into these back lines easier. And Ashe Zyra, who normally can, you know, control the entryways, keep themselves safe, throw down Stranglethorns or arrows or anything else, Olaf's not too concerned about those things.
He definitely loves some help as far as getting into the fight, and he will have that. See if it will be enough to track down those very, very slippery AD carries.
Dignitas looking to have the start that they wanted to have last split this time around. Start off the first week of summer with a 2-0. FlyQuest looking to quickly staunch that downward slope that started yesterday with losing their first match. Wanting to make this one come out even 1-1 as we load into Summoner's Rift for the first time between these two teams. Game number 1 coming at you as FlyQuest and Dignitas about to leave the spawn platforms. We'll have to see if there's anything cheeky at level 1. Remember, sometimes you don't get to see those sort of things, but FlyQuest is a team that you can never count out for making some sort of surprising, unorthodox play.
Plus, the percentage chance that those happen rises a lot when Ivern is in the game. Ivern definitely have to worry about any sort of invades. Can instantly steal a camp with his smite after channeling. And Moon and FlyQuest together are going to look to at least secure a blue buff. He will probably 100% start on his own blue buff so that you guarantee you get it, and there's no, chance of being Iverned out of your own blue, because that really is important to Olaf's clear speed early on. Keeping up the mana as well as cooldown reduction really does help a lot.
Lod, Big, and Keane thinking about maybe heading towards the enemy jungle here. One ward going to be thrown down defensively by FlyQuest to make sure they don't come in too far, but it's just going to be a ward dropped on the chicken pit to keep track of the starting locations.
And with that ward, I think that there's no chance that he starts on the Raptors, because then Ivern would have an opening, go over and seal that. So as expected, Moon will start on his own blue with Olaf and probably just power clear through. Meanwhile, that ward kill does go over to high, so that, they got a little bit of extra experience. See if that will help him out in lane, where again, dodging so important here against the Syndra.
Absolutely.
It really is an advantageous matchup for the Syndra, but can be outplayed.
Both of these champions have so much outplay potential on them, honestly. Very big difference between hitting all your abilities and not hitting all your abilities on either one of their combos. Syndra, of course, somewhat meme famous for not hitting the abilities and just hitting you with the ulti, which is why you've got to be extra careful if you're high. Any amount of damage might push you within that threshold.
Meanwhile, Chaser, we talked about the possibility of those Ivern steals. Does use his first smite on the red buff of FlyQuest. He did walk over a ward in order to do it, though, so Moon will know Chaser has already taken that away. Saw him exit with it as well. Problem is, Olaf, getting low in the jungle. You don't really want to go counter invade on the other side, especially if there's pushing lanes. And with Syndra and Lucian both having these favorable early pushing matchups, That's the reason why Moon is not going to go for a counter steal. Even though they saw that Ivern do it, he knows his red's not there. You know, he's not being fooled here and going over to his own side. It's just too dangerous for him to head over there. And doesn't want to give away any sort of early kills.
Right, I mean, Olaf's one of the junglers that stays the lowest during his first clear just because it's so effective for him to farm more quickly at low HP. Meanwhile, bottom lane, some damage flying back and forth between the two supports. Both Big and Lemonnation trying to gain control early on here, poke their opponents down however they can. Lemon, of course, having some more defensive capabilities than what you've got on Big, who's all in on the offense with the Zyra.
Yeah, and look at this. You know, Lemon knows he doesn't want to trade consistently with the Zyra, so he's standing a little bit further back in the brush. Still in range to head over to WildTurtle and lend the shield, though, if he needs it. Plants do come up, but Lemonnation able to kite them out, and they focus on the minion wave instead.
Big and Lod with the Ashe and the Zyra. We talked about the ability of these two to do a lot of damage and how that might be rough for Lulu, so Lemon and Turtle got to be real careful about that.
Yeah, as well, Moon walked over the ward when he went by the red, so they knew he should be on the bottom side, and bottom lane does not expose themselves. Has to worry about this, though. Chaser's right in there.
Normally, Ivern's not a champ you think about for 1v1ing, but he just jumps right in on Moon, who's forced to pop the Ghost to make sure he gets out of there. Keane using his own Ghost to rotate over to the fight, making sure it doesn't go south.
Yeah, gotta worry about the mid lane there. Syndra is ready to jump on it. Keane used his own Ghost really early on to try and come get that kill, but High able to push up the minions and lend his support as well. Big trade going down there. Ignite not going to be used, though. Both supports pretty low. If they decide to go for another all-in, definitely within Ignite range.
There's so much HP gone in this bottom lane with all 4 summoner spells still up. This could get explosive very, very quickly. Chaser was hanging around but decided to dip out, recognizing he's probably not going to get a whole lot done underneath that turret this early. Nobody's exceptionally tanky on that team. Trigger Seed might buy you an extra auto attack underneath the turret, but that's about it. Meanwhile, Ssumday, kind of what we expected from the Lucian. Power in the lane. This champion, so strong, especially early on. Quick trading potential, powerful bursts, and Balls is going to be content just to hang back and farm it up for now. Dorian's shield, his starting item, you can see against the Dorian's blade of Ssumday.
Oh.
Chaser now looking for Moon yet again. He's got Ssumday right there. They'll slow this guy down, go after him a little bit harder. Moon trying to get himself away. Ssumday going to be popping the blast cone, and that should be first blood. Over to Dignitas top laner. Meanwhile, FlyQuest will tie it up bottom side, but can they make it too?
Oh.
But it will be a 1-for-2. Turtle dropping at the very end there, but both Dignitas bottom laners find their way into the grave.
Yeah, Turtle slightly late on that flash, I guess, because the auto is already in the air, and the auto, once it's in the air, is going to connect unless you flash into Fog of War. Take another look at how it happened, though. You were sensing, Captain. So low, still summoners available, and the root lands, here come the Ignites. All the heals come through. Lemonnation flashes in for the early kill, which is good. But yeah, there was actually no Fog of War for Turtle to really flash over. There was even a little pocket on that wall in case he went on that side. Meanwhile, top side though, Ssumday going aggressive onto Balls.
Oh, the culling! Barely getting Balls out of that one. Has to pop the flash just to escape. Problem is, now he's heading back to base and he just used his TP, so he has lost all sort of presence or momentum in this lane.
Plus the full jungle control there of that river is going to go over to Team Dignitas, where Moon's Ghost was down. That's why Chaser had the confidence the second time around he saw him. Get right in there, land the root collar, Ssumday follows up, and that's what got them that first blood right before the bottom lane took over. So them getting that first blood, actually very beneficial for their bottom lane as well, because Turtle and Lemonnation were the ones to get the first kill on that side.
Even that extra money out of your opponent's pockets, always something you want to do whenever you can in terms of taking first bloods, first turret bloods, anything like that. Very slight gold advantage for Dignitas. Only 1/200, so nothing they're going to be writing home about, but still enough to be content with for now. Level 6s being hit by solo laners across the map. Bottom lane still at level 5. After we hit those level 6 points, we'll have to keep our eyes on what they do with those ultis.
So good again from Chaser. You know he started on blue buff. So you add the extra 5 minutes there, gets in instantly for the blue steal, able to smite it away, and not only does he deny that extra blue from Olaf, or High if you want to hand it over, but also the experience Moon's still not level 6, but there goes Turtle.
Here's those ultis we're talking about. Turtle and Lemonnation looking to force the issue here bottom lane. Lod flashing forward, almost able to find the damage. Now turning over onto Lemon, who shields himself up, stays alive. Turtle does the same, but Dignitas takes a big chunk out of FlyQuest bottom lane.
Yeah, and that's an extra flash actually Lod uses to go for it. So evening up the summoner spells a little bit down there. Meanwhile, in mid lane, Keane is doing a good job using that matchup to get his CS lead onto High, who definitely has to respect the ultimate and the kill pressure there. Because of that mid lane presence, Moon can't go for this invade that he'd like to. There's no way that High could help collapse, and Keane still has his ultimate available, so him alone is going to be able to protect that blue buff.
Moon having a hard time keeping control over buffs this game, but you mentioned it earlier, that's kind of the nature of the game against Ivern. You're so much more likely to see invades with this champion having a presence.
Yeah, Ivern with winning lanes is so frustrating to deal with as an enemy jungler. You know, and Syndra and Lucian, two of the best laning champions, have been able to keep that pressure.
Culling gets interrupted by the stun, so good use of that from Balls to make sure that Ssumday doesn't get off any more damage. But he still can't find his footing here in this lane. Down 20 CS now. Ssumday showing off what you can do with that top lane Lucian. You joke about it, you joke about Huni playing it, but sometimes it just works.
It definitely does. And if Ssumday can have enough pressure to draw Moon up to the top side and they get vision of him, Chaser post level 6, you know, Daisy's available. They could actually try and get an Infernal Drake if the bottom lane is in the right position. You know, their mid lane's already pushing it, already has pressure, and Daisy makes taking early Drakes very easy. She can take pretty much the whole thing if you keep spamming your shield on it. All you need is a little bit of extra DPS from your lanes to come help out, and Infernal is definitely one of the prizes that these teams will risk a little bit extra for.
See the Ivern Grove there on the Scuttle Crab right outside the Infernal as well. Infernal Drakes are fun too, because sometimes you will see early attempts on them, earlier than a turret first blood. We'll have to see if anybody decides to prioritize it that heavily this time around. You can see Big walking around in that river, looking to get some vision down in enemy territory here.
I also want to see if Ssumday will drop back to get the red. Ah, he does. Push up the wave and second red, and from then on out, Ivern leaves the second one, so Ssumday's going to be able to get that and continue with this, you know, top lane bullying. That might be the extra added pressure that they need to force something around that Infernal Drake. Balls still doesn't have his flash, so he has to worry.
Uh-oh.
Oh, he used the lightning rush!
Ssumday's coming up. Balls is in some trouble, but decides to turn the fight around. Ssumday, the one who's now forced to flash away, and Balls says, not today.
Inside the minion wave, Kennen minion firing on Ssumday, and Balls is the one to get the advantage, but now bottom!
Gonna be a 3v3 here. Lod, the one who's initially jumped on. Daisy called out. We'll call her down now as well. High looking to make the play. Shockwave down. Lod is out. Big is done too, and FlyQuest finds himself a 2-0.
Oh my goodness, FlyQuest win fights on both sides of the map at the same time. Now can they press down for first turret gold? Looks like it will be the case.
3 guys down here, one of which being an Olaf. I guess he's not that super great at it since he's full HP, but still more than enough pressure to take this one down. Dignitas trying to respond here in the mid lane. They will not beat them in the race though, and first turret blood goes over to FlyQuest.
Definitely a much needed victory there for FlyQuest on the bottom side. Chaser had actually walked down there, but passed by a ward, so then he was seen and had to give up on it. After he walks out of the river due to the roam from High, it's just a really good ultimate lands from Turtle. And Turtle basically is the one to create this entire play by hitting that Varus ultimate. High goes down there and he places the ball behind both members of the bottom lane, cutting off the escape, and lands the shockwave. But then Team Dignitas, after the recall, still end up getting that Infernal Drake.
Dignitas responding with some objectives of their own. They evened up the turret count there in the mid lane. They got the Infernal now, sitting in a decent enough spot for themselves. FlyQuest angers the Rift Herald there a little bit, but then decides to back away.
Glitter in the eyes! Oh, no.
So hard to get off. But now, FlyQuest and Dignitas, very, very close still. 500 gold separating the teams. Dignitas had that much of a lead for a couple minutes there at the start. FlyQuest has it now as an arrow connects into Lemonnation. The follow-up CC will be there. Wild growth on him to try to keep him alive. But Keane presses R and sends him straight to the black and white grave.
Syndra tutorial in outplay. Press R after both summoners have been used.
Kill opponent.
Support down.
Collect 300 gold.
Honestly, though, I like the setup of that play more than the end of it. It was Big who came from the mid lane, and so they knew that Lemonnation was going to run away from that ward towards the ramp, and that's where Laud aimed his arrow a little bit further into the ramp. So Lemonnation, had nowhere to go. He walked right into that arrow, and it's, very good setup. The end of it was a lot of power there with double summoners and the ultimate, but really did like how they funneled him down. And now, once again, here's another setup. Everybody's around Turtle, and there is nowhere for him to go. Teleport.
Oh, Turtle. This is not the best place to be, my friend. Dignitas looking to take him down if they can, but it actually may be Chaser who falls first. Moon drops to Big. Now Ball's in some trouble. He tries to make the TP save. Instead, almost puts himself in the dirt as well. Forget the almost, man. He is gone. A double kill for Big. 3 for 0, Team Dignitas.
High is taking the mid turret during that, though. Gets about half of the health on it. But yeah, Turtle so far up there, even though they have teleport to rely on, Team Dignitas brought all members, so they just simply outstat him there. Have to say, Chaser extremely close to going down. The redemption barely healed him in time. He's able to flash out at the end there to survive. Take a look at how close this is with the extra damage that comes through, because Turtle's focusing on it, and so is Balls. With that shield and flash, able to just barely get out. But again, all the kills then coming over here for FlyQuest. Big gets around the outside. He's able to snag the second one for himself. Getting some extra support power.
Dignitas more than happy about that outcome, and WildTurtle, these are the kind of things that he gets criticized for, being too far forward, sticking around the lane a little bit too long. Dignitas recognizes that mistake, they punish it, and now they find themselves an even larger gold lead. Thanks to that, 6-4 now, turret's still even. Over 1,000 gold advantage for the Dignitas boys. Blade of the Ruined King, you can see that done for Ssumday. Just about to come off a cooldown, so that much scarier for Balls to have to deal with. But of course, Balls has his own. So War of the Ruined Kings there in the top side. Morello Namicon also done for both those mid laners. Blade of the Ruined Kings and the AD carries. Just a mirror here across the board for these first completed items.
All right, they're prepping for a pretty big play here because red buff just been picked up by Ssumday on the Lucian. And you mentioned how far in CS he is ahead. You know, he is, looks like second most gold in the game at the moment. But Rivington just brings so much extra power, right? If you can get a kill beforehand, or if you get in place beforehand.
Or if you get a kill and get in place. WildTurtle's trying to get away from this one, but the Stranglethorns will not allow it. Ssumday picking up the kill.
Exactly. This could be one of the biggest Herald plays that we see. There is a kill plus a teleport advantage. Kennen is bottom lane, so no way that Balls joins. They can pressure at least through the second turret, maybe even go for the inhibitor turret with this Rift Herald. They've already sent Keane back to defend secondary, so it looks like they won't go for the triple, but at least 2 turrets taken here for Team Dignitas.
Getting the tier 2 for free, 16 minutes in. You can't feel bad about that one. Rift Herald has done his job. He'll go back to the Void. Not really much more he can do, considering the FlyQuest team has finally shown up to shut him down, but great play from Dignitas. More money heading their way. More map control with those turrets down. Ball's coming around from the side to try to take down Keane. The burst comes through, but it is not enough. The redemption won't be there in time, and Keane goes down.
I like that pass from High, because his first objective is to save Balls so that Balls doesn't go down to the all-in there from Syndra. I mean, Balls doesn't have any magic resist aside from the lightning rush. So he shields first, then hits the shockwave from that placement on the Kennen, and they're able to secure the kill, plus not allowing any sort of counter gold going back over. And High, before that, had finally gotten the mid turret down. So FlyQuest are sticking in this, but Team Dignitas full steam ahead here. Get the early turret on bottom side, even though FlyQuest are going to answer on top side.
Ssumday should pick this one up for himself, no problem. Gets that solo gold from that. Working towards that Black Cleaver next will make him that much deadlier as we get into the mid-game here. Lanes quickly ending as the turrets collapse all over the place. This should be the last tier 1 on the map going down right now. 3 turrets to 4, 7 total turrets taken down 17 minutes in, Kobe. Both teams are so active this game.
Continue to try and force objectives on the opposite side here. All outer turrets now traded, though. And the Mountain Drake up in 20 seconds. Team Dignitas laying down the vision work beforehand, plus channeling that crab. So they've got all the prep work done. They also have the gold lead. So this should be a very advantageous situation for Team Dignitas. And FlyQuest, you gotta even wonder if they'll risk moving to this area, because if you talk about that fog of war right now, the entire red quadrant leading up to this Drake is all Team Dignitas territory. So scary for FlyQuest to even move close.
Look at how dark that map is. You're just taking a risk going anywhere near it.
Ashe arrow is ready for Team Dignitas. They could force a fight as well.
Trying to pick their moment. They fire that arrow. They want it to be a hit, not just some random toss it out, cross your fingers type of situation. Rushmaker used there on the edge of the Drake pit. Dignitas going for it. FlyQuest is not even going to bother.
Yeah, FlyQuest are going for the trade objective strategy rather than any sort of contest into the fog of war here. They push up mid with high and get top going as well, trying to rotate through Team Dignitas' jungle. They will give up the extra dragon, but it remains to be seen if there will be any sort of discrepancy in the turret pushing power here. Balls is trying to stop Ssumday on the bottom side. Big doing the same on top.
FlyQuest pushing it as hard as their little legs will push them forwards. Seeing if they can get enough damage onto this tier 2 to maybe bring her down, but it's not going to be so. Backdoor protection will come up momentarily as Ssumday bringing Chaser down here towards the bottom lane, seeing if they can make a move on balls, but he gets himself away rather quickly. That doesn't mean that they won't get to tier 2, though. They should have more than enough power to bring that one down.
Team Dignitas get the better of that trade as well, so take down the Mountain Drake and get the advantage in the turret swap. Extra gold going to go over to fund the next fight that does come up.
And throwing back to what we talked about again in Champion Select, looking at the top lane Lucian, we were both excited to see it locked in, and it's working really well right now for Team Dignitas. 2-0 and 2, 52 CS up over his opponent. Ssumday is doing exactly what he wanted to do with this pick when they locked that in.
With the Blade and the Ruin King, or the Blade of the Ruin King and the Cleaver right now, he's at a very big spike for himself, and they'd love to, you know, just force any sort of little skirmish there with him around, but not able or willing to commit that Ashe arrow. It was a long shot, and that was a ghosted target that has Ragnarok, so definitely not worth trading those ultimates, and no other target really presents itself.
And you know, Kobe, with both of these teams having 2 Blade of the Ruin King users with damage-heavy top laners, if one team gets a very advantageous fight for themselves, Baron is a very real possibility as a consequence for that. Even though we're just now crossing 20 minutes, there's a lot of damage in Baron killing power.
Definitely true, especially for Team Dignitas with that extra Mountain Drake on top of it. Ssumday back to bottom side. They do have teleports available for both these split pushers. FlyQuest trying to protect that Baron.
Ooh, thanks for the leash balls. Ssumday walking away with that one. Cheekily stealing it away, hiding out in the brush, just watching until he can last hit it. That's how you build those CS leads, making sure he's constantly staying.
That's how, by sneaking the kill on the Krug.
Yeah, by sneaking the kill on the Krug, you backstab the Krug, steal that 70 gold away. It's not just plus 70 for you, it's minus 70 for him.
Pads your numbers as well, a bunch of mini Krugs to add to that CS.
Oh yeah. Krug's worth what, 11? Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I think.
By
10.
now,
Yeah, there's 10.
Huge, you know, by far most gold in the game is Ssumday. So the Knight's Vow, it's no surprise that it goes on to the solo lane experience, super fed Lucian, and that's going to be a lot of added protection there. Doesn't matter that Knight's Vow, if your melee is halved, so Ivern has to, you know, get into that brush and go range for it to get the full value. Still, any sort of extra survivability for this fed Lucian is going to be very, very scary for FlyQuest to try and deal with in the team fight.
Ssumday, such a power player in this game at this point in time. A lot of things are going to be about him. Expect FlyQuest to look to find some angle to bring him down, because if you don't, I don't really see them being able to deal with Dignitas right now, having this incredibly fed Lucian, this very farmed Lucian with the Ivern to support him.
Yeah, you can always bet on a hidden Orianna Shockwave maybe, though. Possibility of winning a big team fight there. High does have a decent amount of power himself, but that would also require, you know, Dignitas kind of losing track of the ball maybe, as there aren't the best ball delivery systems on FlyQuest to get that one in place. So might have to do a lot of the work himself.
I like the pickup of the Banshee's Veil on high here as well. It means that they have to stack a root or a Syndra stun or a root collar or an arrow instead of just hitting with one of them. Because there's a lot of pick tools on Dignitas.
All right, here we go. Baron started up. This is a Mountain and Infernal Drake powered Baron attempt. As you said, they can take it fairly quickly, but Daisy is down already. And FlyQuest just posturing around the Baron, forced Team Dignitas off, and Daisy on cooldown.
Dignitas, not really an extreme cooldown to be spending with the Daisy, so they don't mind it too much, but... Oh, that's a nice shockwave. That's what we were looking for, but they get themselves back in time. Redemption comes down to heal up Chaser. Keane only lost about half his HP there. Those are what you've got to keep your eyes on. Ssumday opening up the culling. Ball's going to be forced back. A couple more shots takes him down. A killing spree for the Dignitas top laner, as now the rest of the boys are here to push the T2.
All right, this stretch should go down pretty quickly. Everybody hitting it. Rooted Turtle on the side.
Oh no, Arrow follows it up. He tries to get himself out, utilizing any escape mechanisms he's got, but it might be enough. Wild growth to help keep him alive. Root caller from over the wall, damage being returned. Big gonna be going down next. High getting bursted, more auto attacks coming through. Ssumday with a shutdown. The chase continues as Lod's going after WildTurtle. Bow versus Bow, mine's stronger than yours. Lod goes up to 2, 2, and 5. Turtle drops down to 1, 4, and 4. And Dignitas again finds the better of the fight.
Oh man, Ssumday is able to get the kill onto Balls all by himself, and then gets another one here in the jungle skirmish. This guy is just an incredibly fed member of the team right now, and if you don't take him down, like you said, Captain, not gonna have success here. Roots on the outside. Turtle was trying to flank there, and he does save the Quicksilver Sash until the arrow hits, so that was a good job by Turtle. He does have to burn both summoners on the escape there, and lands his own ultimate on the outside. High does flash over for this kill, but Ssumday's too powerful. Even though he's trapped inside that wolf pit, fights his way out, as does Lod on the bottom side. No summoners left for Turtle to escape.
5,000 gold, 24 minutes in. It's a heck of a lead, Kobe. Dignitas are sitting comfortably on this now. Totally in control, every avenue in the game. Third elemental Drake coming up. It's another big value Drake, and they're already on it.
It is, and Ssumday himself is over 3,000 gold just on himself, ahead of Balls right now.
Ugh,
in addition to the double Infernal Drakes, Lucian as a champion, just because there's so much mobility in this kit, and he's constantly getting out these auto attacks, it's just such a snowbally champion right now. It's incredibly hard to stop. He also picked up the Phantom Dancer for extra mobility, as well as the defenses that go along with that.
He is just completely bonkers strong right now. I don't see even a shockwave. I don't know if he's got the damage to him. Here comes the flank though. Balls looking to make the move instead. Health bar is going to be dropping back and forth. It's Keane for Balls, and now Chaser's down too. Moon backing off as Ragnarok wears away.
FlyQuest able to get the 2 for 1 by fighting where Ssumday is not. Good little flank there from Balls, but he ends up going down on top of it. I mean, remember, yes, Kennen can still flank. However, auto attack Kennen. Oh, Hi, you don't want that fight.
Hi, this is not a guy you just walk up and start to try to 1v1. Ssumday flashing after Lemonnation, turning his aggro right back onto Moon. Almost finishing off 2 instead, not getting either one of them. He'll settle for just the pick onto the enemy mid laner.
Whew. Lemonnation able to get into that fog of war inside the wolf camp, so the flash auto goes on to Moon instead. But here we go. Moon charges in, and Balls does have sort of the flank here on the Kennen, but remember, this is not AP Kennen. You don't have Zonias, you don't have anything else there on the side, so Team Dignitas actually get a kill back in that play set up, and then Ssumday's by himself and already dashed in. That's why they go aggressive on him, but it doesn't matter. He can find his way out of it. He's level 16. Goes for the flash onto Lemon, but he hides inside that fog of war pocket. Baron should be pretty easy. FlyQuest here to contest though.
Moon already popping that Ragnarok, means he's got 6 seconds to try to get in there and do something. It's already worn off though. Dignitas keeping him away, Ssumday jumping in, Balls scared off before he can find his way into the fight. Baron down to about 2K. Dignitas want to secure this, they've got it. Chaser with the smite. Shockwave finds no one. Now Dignitas have to try to escape this one. Ssumday brought low, they get the big Lucian. What else can they find? A double kill for WildTurtle. Dignitas in full retreat, he's gonna be sniped. A triple kill for Turtle. Lod backing, big running, Lemon chasing, but that will be it
2 members do end up escaping for Team Dignitas, but you know, FlyQuest are actually okay with getting some gold back for themselves. Big Baron buff now. Let's see how Lod and Big are able to use it.
Important to remember that it is only up on those 2. So if you wanted to try to run some kind of a 4-1 split with Ssumday or something along those lines, you can't do it while enchanting 2 waves of minions with the Baron buff. So look at the options.
So take another look here. Moon pops the Ragnarok early to threaten the fact that he could run in for the smite fight, and it kind of delays the damage there. Balls is able to get away from the Syndra stun, and that's a big cooldown that really does enable FlyQuest to go in. But the big story, Turtle goes in for the ultimate on to Lucian. He nails Ssumday, allowing the follow-up, and that's the most fed member. That's the key of the composition. A couple of skill shots landing over the wall then. Moon able to land the slow. Turtle follows up with a snipe, and all 3 kills funneled into WildTurtle there to get him in a position to try and carry FlyQuest back into the game.
And look at the damage, 2,544, more than anybody else in that last fight except for no one. He beats the Lucian handedly. The person that actually came the closest to him was Big, and there's a long-range arrow finding its way onto Balls, who's now jumped on by both Chaser and Big. Ssumday coming in, guns at the ready. Shoots him down, picks up a free kill for his team, and now it's 5v4 for 45 seconds. Dignitas is at the door.
Oh, they are knocking 5v4 with Baron buff. Let's see if FlyQuest can actually land skill shots onto the crucial members. Both the AD carries are prime targets, but even if you go all for them, you still have to worry about long-range Syndra stuns coming through.
Ssumday deciding to break off here. Go back towards mid. This is kind of what I talked about with the Baron buffs, though. Remember, he's not enchanted with it, so he's not going to be buffing those minions up. It's going to be a normal push as opposed to what he would have should he have survived that encounter in the Baron pit. But he's still very effective at pushing down these turrets, Baron minions or not. Turtle trying to get himself back. Lemonnation going to be rooted up, having to run away from the follow-up damage threat of Ssumday. The rest of Dignitas now rotating over towards mid lane. The inhibitor turret should fall in only a moment. Lod will make sure of that. Dignitas cracks the base 30 minutes in.
Yeah, Balls is back up, but Team Dignitas pull out pretty early here, only taking the inhibitor turret. Don't want to expose themselves. Able to take that extra cash that they just earned. Still sticking around with the push in mid lane, though. They just backed off for a second to make sure there was no teleport behind them. And indeed, they cleared out all wards behind them, so they should be pretty safe there.
Just making sure they don't do anything too haphazard, too crazy. Don't want to throw themselves into a inhibitor turret dive meat grinder and end up on the wrong side of a team fight. They know that they're ahead. They know that they've been ahead for the vast majority of this game. And this is a team that, like we talked about, going into this game, communication has been a big issue with them. It was throughout spring. It's a big focus still now coming into summer. This is a team that wants to be able to work together as a coherent unit, and it looks like they've definitely been getting the rewards and the benefits and the results from all that focus on that.
Yeah, and they've been getting the Infernal Drakes as well. This is number 3 spawning. Really fortunate, but FlyQuest contesting for maybe a smite fight. There is a teleport on Ssumday. Possible he could join.
Ssumday decides to TP right now, working his way into the fight. Infernal taking low, but it resets. Keane's taken down by High off in the side. This may be FlyQuest's fight. Ragnarok popped by Moon. Ssumday dashed himself over the wall. Culling gonna be used. High gonna be shot down. Balls with the ulti. Ssumday stunned up. Trying to get himself away. Arrow's gonna be returned. Moon running off to the side. More damage pouring in. And it is FlyQuest getting absolutely destroyed. Lemon the last man standing. Run, little Lulu, run. Triple kill for Lod.
Only Keane going down as well. FlyQuest did a good job. You know, they sniped him out there on the outside, but everybody dead now. That means Dignitas can run into the base.
Dignitas, they may have lost out on their 3rd Infernal Drake, but if you can trade the 3rd Infernal Drake for the Nexus, I think you'll take that one any day of the week. They may not be able to push that far right now, but they will secure the mid lane inhibitor and get themselves out with some extra map pressure under the belt.
Yeah, inhibitor and 5 kills going over. So let's take a look at this, because High is the one who starts this all off. He solos Keane here with the Shockwave combo, flashes over. Then FlyQuest almost get a good reset here, and they go on to the Drake, but the follow-through. Ashe arrow comes through, Ssumday's on the front lines, and he's barely able to fight his way out there. He uses the summoners to get off on the outside, then he can chase down Moon, has the ward so he doesn't have to face check that brush, and that's all the hope that FlyQuest had for winning that fight.
That ward was really big too, because if he did face check that brush, there's a possibility Moon bursts him.
Yeah, I think he just probably wouldn't have face checked it if he didn't have the ward. Let Moon sit there until reinforcements came.
Just sit there and camp him.
I know
you're in
there.
there. I'm not coming in. We're going to wait for somebody else to come in.
Yeah.
6-1-6 now on Ssumday. Infinity Edge, the 4th completed item for him. So more crit damage, more crit chance to go along with that Phantom Dancer he bought earlier, scaling into the late game on this pickup. QSS also now on him, but if he gets locked up, he's going to have ways out. I believe we actually saw that in the last fight when he was stunned up by Balls' ulti. Had to get himself out of that trouble spot. Dignitas, they know Baron's going to be up in 30 seconds. They know they're up by a massive amount of gold, so they're taking control of the area, setting up that vision.
Claude is auto-attacking still on the blue buff, so Keane doesn't get it. Even though he pulled it off.
Communication!
I mean, he's like,
There
I
you
was
go.
trying to help. I didn't want it to leash all the way back.
Yeah, zoom in on that blue buff. Observers, make sure that Laud knows what he's doing. Controlling his mid laner. 18-12 though, Dignitas still feeling very comfortable, very confident here. Moon and Lemonnation mid lane. Balls pushing bottom. He's got the TP. TP advantage is in the favor of FlyQuest right now, as Ssumday was the only one who had to use his for that Drake fight.
Yeah. Again, though, we kind of caution against this in Champion Select, where FlyQuest as a team haven't had that much success with split pushing strategies for Balls. And the Kennen is pushing, but you know, he's 0-5. Baron, 3,000 health though.
Balls trying to TP in. Moon running around. Berserk, Ragnarok trying to make the moves. Keane flashing, gets the ulti, and High is out of there. Keane continuing to zone them away, finds his 2nd kill onto Lemonnation. Press R to win. Sometimes you don't even need it. You just slam those orbs right into your opponents. And now they're pushing down the top side. That's where the minion wave is. It's not just going to be 2 members with Baron this time. It's all 5, and they are barreling down top lane.
Yep, Baron empowered, 2-member advantage here. This should be Team Dignitas going towards the Nexus, looking to go 1-0 in the series.
I just now noticed as well, Kobe, Ssumday, the man you see dashing in right now, gunning these guys down right next to their own Nexus. 428 farm in 35 minutes. That is some kind of a work of art. Ssumday and the rest of Dignitas will find their win 35 minutes in and take game 1.
Talk about a carry top laner. Absolutely destroyed up there.
Look at the smiles. Big's happy, Dig's happy. That's the kind of game you can feel good about coming out from game 1, feel strong about going into game number 2, trying to lock this away, lock away both this split and, not this split, that would be a lot, but to lock away both this series and this weekend as a 2-0.
Ssumday ended this game just his own gold difference versus Balls. 7,000 gold over Balls. That is several items. That's insane. Also level 18, 2 levels over, but yeah. That Lucian into the Kennen, very, very strong right there. Able to, you know, push in the early phases of the matchup. But then, man, they just pried it wide open, especially with the Ivern, adding those red buffs over to him. Tons of pressure there, and Team Dignitas were able to utilize that lead for the objective control, right? Racking up those dragons. They got very beneficial dragon spawns with the Infernals coming through.
And you know, all those factors working together, talking about how you saw Balls in the top lane with the Kennen, with the split push strategy that wasn't always super effective for this team, having the Ivern that can donate the red buffs over, it just seemed like it all worked together to be a great situation for this Lucian pick.
Yeah. Anyways, the Lucian pick, yeah, as we talked about from Champ Select, already seeing it, and they saved it till the very end there as well. Now, if we move forward, though, Ssumday we have a little bit of a montage for you to highlight this Lucian pick and just how he racked up so many of the kills. This was really how the early game, and we talk about pressing in and lane control, he was constantly pushing Balls in for the majority of the early game, so that allows him to make roam plays like this. You know, blows up that blast cone, so there's no option even of anyone else helping out Moon and giving them that extra jump. Chaser had done his part in burning the summoner previously of Moon, but here's another one. That one is just a long-range snipe. I mean, that's a secure as far as the kills go. This one is doing work himself, though, under the turret, able to get that full culling and finish it off. That was one that was able to get them a turret afterwards. 1v3 dashes in, ready to take all challengers. A little bit unfair there as he had already gotten the level lead and extra items at this point, but you get the idea.
Yeah, you could say that he had a pretty good game here on the Lucian, and honestly, all of Dignitas had a pretty impressive game for themselves. You saw some big damage coming out of Keane. You saw Laud have some good arrows. The whole team worked together as a unit, and it helped them make plays like what we saw 31 minutes into the game, the fight at Dragon where FlyQuest decides to fight for it and they get aced.
Yeah, and look at this. So remember, we started off with high soloing Keane, gets the shockwave, flashes over for the combo, and then FlyQuest try and disengage, but the arrow you talk about, Laud is able to secure that, re-engage. They get the summoners out of high. Ssumday collapses on them, able to flash out with both summoners right at the end there as well to stay alive, and Lauds remains on the front line, DPSing on the other side. So even though Keane goes down, the double AD carries carry this team fight with the added utility coming through.
And that's one of the conversations that sometimes happens when you see teams pick up something like an Ivern is, yeah, he's really good at defending, he's good at supporting, he's good at trolling your enemy jungler, but do you have enough damage on the rest of the team to make up for the fact that he does no damage himself?
Yeah.
And when you have a Lucian and you have a Zyra, yeah, you got plenty of damage.
Yeah, I mean, they got not only a really good array of carry champions there, but the double supports of Zyra adding more AP to this kind of threat. So you're not overloaded on attack damage carries with multiple AD carries. They've got a Syndra and a Zyra that are putting out just as much magic damage, and it just makes it hard to itemize against.
Yeah, you always think when somebody has 2 AD carries, oh yeah, we'll just build Deadmans and Randuins and Sunfire Capes and Tabbies and it'll be great and we'll block all the damage. But Syndra and Zyra are there too. That's not really going to happen too much. Dignitas obviously doing a good job weaving this draft together, making sure that this was built properly to find themselves a win here. They got to throw credit to that over to their coaching staff as well. We talked a lot in Spring Split about how Dignitas as a team, once they made the change, brought in Kopp as coach. Everything changed around. You know, we've heard them describe him as the process himself, the man who makes the magic happen. And it seems like
the process is evolving now.
The process is, absolutely. It's working for these guys. And you can see that just through the coherency of the drafts as well and how good they're playing as a team.
Yeah, and for FlyQuest, it has been a really rough start for them for this summer split. So I'm curious to see if they can, recover in this series and come back.
Well, we'll see if they can even up that score when we come back with Game 2 against Team Dignitas. Don't go anywhere. Series is going to continue right after the break. Meanwhile, FlyQuest will tie it up bottom side, but can they make it to it?
Orianna flash. I can. Orianna flash, Varus no flash. No flash, no ult. You can bear soon.
여기 돌아봐. She's coming.
Okay, we go bear. Let's go. Lucian.
I miss. We can go.
Lucian. He's rooted.
Lucian. We can go.
Ivern.
Axe on these guys. Okay. Up. Triple.
Moon running off to the side, more damage pouring in, and it is FlyQuest getting absolutely destroyed. Lim in the last man standing, run little Lulu, run, triple kill for Laud. Ssumday and the rest of Dignitas will find their win 35 minutes in and take Game 1.